user defined microservice.
And I told you, in SAS, we are going to have two different types of components. One is macro language, second one is macro processor. Whatever the code that we are writing, that is a macro language. When you submit that code, the macro program will goes and communicates with the macro processor. And I told you, the macro processor, what it will do? Macro processor will convert your macro code into base SAS code, and then the base SAS code will be get executed in normal manner. That means we are writing a code. That code is getting executed again one more code, and the total process we call it as a meta programming. And I told you, in SAS we can find two different types of triggers. Sometimes we start our program macro program with a percentage symbol. If we have percentage symbol, what is the percentage symbol? Macro statements or macro names. And then if you have anything seen with the ampersand symbol, what is that actually? What is that?
Macro variable.
Macro variables. Macro variables. So, and in the last class we started with the macro variables. I told you in macros the variables are two types. What are the two types of macro variables that we have? System defined and user defined. So what do you mean by system defined? These are the macro variables. These are the macro variables that automatically system is going to get installed whenever you open SAS software. I told you whenever you open the SAS. Pardon?
Screen, sir, screen.
It is shared, no? Already? Can't you see my screen?
Yes, sir. No, sir. Sir, we seen, sir.
No, sir. Screen is freeze. Like if you on desktop.
Okay. So what are the system-defined macro variables? System-defined macro variables are nothing but these are the macro variables. Whenever you open the SAS session, automatically the macro process is going to get installed these system-defined macro variables. Okay, and then how to see the system? What are the system-defined macro variables that we have? If you want, I told you we can see the system-defined macro variables in the log window. If you want to see in the log window, what is the statement we should write?
Percentage put underscore
Automatic
Percentage put underscore automatic underscore. Okay, but if you specify like this one, what are all the automatic macro variables or system-defined macro variables that we have, we can get the print in the log window. And I told you what is the commonality of all the system-defined macro variables?
sys.
Starts with the
Sys.
so that means system-defined. And since it starts with a sys, when you're creating a user-defined, you should not use sys prefix when you're creating a user-defined because sys has been used for developmental purpose. Okay, so that is what we have seen. But can you tell me a few system-defined macro variables?
Sys.
Date.
sysdate, sysdate 9 dot, systime, sysversion, sysversion, systime, sysday, and these are the sum of the system defined. And I told you we don't use much of these system defined in the real time. That's why what I told you, we create our own macro variable. If you are creating your own macro variable, we call it as a name user defined macro variables. Okay. How to create these user-defined macro variables? And we can create these user-defined macro variables in 5 ways. Remember, what are the 5 different ways that we have?
Percentage let.
The first one is called as a percentage letter. The second one is a percentage global, and third one is a percentage local.
Percentage
And then
local.
we have a calls
Calls
input.
input.
And then we have a
Into column.
into column.
Into column.
Into column. These are the 5 concepts that we have. Now in today's class, we'll discuss about these 5 ways how to create a macro variable, a user-defined macro variable. Okay, the first one is percentage let.
Let.
Now, how to create it by using a percentage let? You know, what is the percentage it can do? It creates macro variables and it assigns values, and it assigns a value to it. అంటే ఇది మ్యాక్రో వేరియబుల్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తుందండి, దాంతో పాటు ఏం చేస్తుందండి, ఇట్ అసైన్ ఎ వాల్యూ ఫర్ ఇట్, ఇట్ అసైన్ ఎ వాల్యూ టు ఇట్. Then how to write that one? Now I'm going to write percentage let. Then we should write a macro variable name. Okay, we should write a macro, whatever the macro variable we want to put it, you should write the macro variable is equal to, now you should write the value. So this is the general syntax of percentage let. Now I want to create a macro variable called a name, in that I want to have a Srinivas. Then how to create that one? Now percentage let, I want to have macro variable called name is equal to, what is the value I want to have? Srinivas. Now keep a semicolon. Now if you select this one line, if you execute this one line, you know what is going to happen? It will create a macro variable called name. And what is the value in that name macro variable? You will have value called Srinivas. Now how to find out that whether this macro variable has got a value or not? Again, if you want to find whether this macro variable has been created and whether you have a value or not, if you can find in the log window. But if you want to see in the log window, now what is the statement you should write now? You should write percentage put, and then you should write ampersand the macro variable name, which is name. So I told you percentage put is useful to write the macro variable value in the log window. Now then what is the macro variable value I want to see? I want to see ampersand name. Now if I select the program and execute the program, now in the log window, if it has been created, we are going to have a value. Can you see what is the value that we have for ampersand name? Srinivas.
Srinivas.
So this is how we create a macro variable. And remember one thing, you know, in base SAS, when you're creating a macro variable, generally how we write the macro variable, when you create any base SAS variable, how we write the variable? You will write simply variable name is equal to value. But if it's a character value, how we used to write it in a base SAS? Remember?
Quotation.
Data set name. Yeah, data set name. Name is equal to Srinivas. What is the name variable now? Name is a character variable. Okay, so for example, I'm writing salary is equal to 50,000. Now, what is the salary variable?
Numeric.
Numeric. You know, but when you're creating a macro variable, that is a character data or a numerical data, we always write openly. You know what? Because in macros, there is only one type of data, which is character data. We have only one type of data. What is the data that we have? We have character data.
Character data.
In base SAS, we have 2 types of data, numerical data and character data. But in macros, we have only one type of data, that is character data. And the next one is, In the base as what is the length of the variable can we have? Variable name that we can have?
That is
32.
32 characters.
Now, so what is the length of the variable name that we can have? In base as we can have up to 32 characters. In the macros also, we can have a variable name up to 32 characters. And now, what is the length of a character well we can have in base as?
32,767.
767.
32,700 and how much we can have? 32,767. But in macros, the length of a character variable, or of course I told you we are going to have only one type of data, the length of the variable is 65,534. So that means which is double to the base as variable. What is the length of the macro variable? 65,534 bytes. That is what we can write. So in macros, we are going to have only one type of data, which is only character data. And the macro variable name length you can have up to 32 characters, but the value we can have, the value that we can have up to 65,534 bytes. Understand this one? Is it clear, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to create a variable called sex. In that I want to have male M. Now, how to write the program? Now, tell me how to create a macro variable by using the percentage let. Now, simply we are going to the percentage let the variable name. I want to have the sex variable is equal to what is the value I want to have? I want to have the capital M. You no need to write quotations because everything is character data. Now, if I select the program, if I execute the program, we are going to have a macro variable called sex, and the value is M. Now, I want to use this macro variable in my program. Say, for example, say I am writing data, I am creating a class data set. I am creating this from the SAS dot class. Now I am writing. Now I am writing, if sex is equal to, now I am writing ampersand 6. Now, can you tell me what is the value of ampersand 6?
M.
Capital M.
But now I'm using this macro variable in the base as you should always set, because how I want, if you want to select a conditionally, the sex should be in what? Within the quotations, isn't it? Because now I'm writing this macro variable in the base as now we should, now if I execute the program, now tell me what are the observations I'm going to have in the class data set. Which observation I'm going to have?
Only male.
Only male observations. Can you see? I'm having a male observations. So this is how we create a macro variable, and that is how we use whenever we require that macro variable. Understand this one? So I want to create a variable called, salary. In that I want to have a 50,000. Tell me how we can do that one? Percentage let. I'm writing a macro variable called sal or salary is equal to what I want to have. I want to have a 50,000. Now keep a semicolon, select this one line. If you execute the line, now what is the macro variable I'm going to have? The macro variable salary is going to have the value 50,000. Now I'm writing, say, for example, percentage letter. Percentage letter. I'm writing a variable called make. Make is equal to, I'm writing, say, for example, value called RD. Now I'm writing proc print. I want to print this as help.cars. I'm writing SAS help.cars. Now, while I'm printing, I want to print only RD cars data. Then what should I write? Now I'm writing a where statement where make is equal to, now within the quotations, I'm writing ampersand, what I should write? Ampersand make. Now tell me how the ampersand make will be get resolved?
RD.
that will get resolved as an RD. Now while I'm printing this one, now I'm writing this one. Say for example, I'm writing a title. In the title, I want to have report on, ampersand make cars. Tell me, what is the title you'll get now?
Report on audit cost.
Report on audit cars, and you will get a print only for audit cars. Can you see? I'm getting report on only audit cars, and I'm getting the title report on audit cars. So if you create a macro variable, now you can use that macro variable anywhere in the SAS program. You can use in a data step, you can use in proc step, wherever you want to, you can use it. How many times you want to, you can use it. So whenever the SAS is, executing the percentage ampersand make, how it is going to get resolved? This ampersand make will be get replaced by RD. So here also we are going to get RD, and here also we will get RD. Understand this one? Now, I want to create a macro variable called city, and I want to have value called Hyderabad. HUID. Tell me how we can create a macro variable called city and how we can have the value. Now percentage let variable name city is equal to HUID. Now let's put this one. Now tell me how we can find out whether the city has been created or not. How to know that one? Percentage put ampersand city semicolon. But now, in the current, now if I go to the log window, now we can see the value Hyderabad. But now I want to find the list of all the user-defined macro variables that what I created in this session. What are the user-defined macro variables I created? Remember, I have created the name. I have created the macro variable called name, and I have created a macro variable called sex. Then I created a macro variable called salary, make, and then I created the city. I want to get all the variables list. So if you want to find all the user-defined macro variables that we have in the current session, now you should write percentage put underscore user underscore. Now if I execute this one line, now what is going to happen now? In the log window, what and all the user-defined macros that we created, we can find all. Now can you see? We have a city variable, make variable, name variable, salary variable, and the sex variable. Now, but I want to find both user-defined and system-defined both. If you want to get the list of all the macro variables, now we should percentage put underscore all underscore. Now execute this program, this one statement. Now in the log window, now can you see? First, we are going to have a user-defined here. You see, we have a user-defined macro variables, and then we have system-defined macro variables. So if you want to get the list of both, what is the statement you should write? Percentage put underscore all underscore. If you want to find only user-defined, percentage put underscore user underscore. If you want to have only system-defined, what we should write? Percentage put underscore automatic underscore. Clear, everybody? No. Now tell me, I want to create a macro variable called text. In that I want to have, SAS macros class. Tell me how we can do that one. Percentage let
Text
macro variable on txt is equal to what is the value I want to have? SAS macros class. Now I'm selecting this one statement. I'm executing this program. Now did I commit any mistake?
Semicolon.
I forgot to write the semicolon. I didn't see that one. Now I want to find whether the macro variable text has been created or not. How we can find whether macro variable text has been created or not? Percentage. Now, percentage put. I'm writing percentage put. I'm writing ampersand txt. Now selecting this one line. I'm executing this one line. Now I'll go to the log window to check whether the macro variable has been created or not. Now I have an What error? Can you see what is the error I'm getting? Open code statement, recursion detected. Open code statement, recursion detected. Now, you know why this error we got? Because I forgot to keep semicolon here. Now what I'm going to do, now I came to know my mistake. I'm keeping semicolon. I'm executing this program again one more time, that statement one more time. If I go to the log window, is that error has been rectified? No. Even though I kept the semicolon, when I execute the program, still I'm getting that one. You know how many times you execute the program, that error will not be get resolved again and again. We are going to get that error back. Generally, in SAS, whenever you have an error, if you know that one, if you correct that error, if you execute the program, generally what should have happened? The program should be get executed normally. But in macros, if you have such kind of open code statement, open code recursion detected, even though you rectify that your error, even if you execute the program again after rectifying your error, that program will not be get executed. You will still get that one the same error. When we have a such error, you will not have any other choice. You have to close the session and you should reopen the session again. Then only that error will be get resolved. But in the real time, closing the session and reopening the session is not a that much easy task. Sometimes it will take to load all your servers, your databases and everything. It is going to take sometimes 30 to 45 minutes time to open to restart your session. So you're going to lose so much of time. So in that scenario, but forgetting the semicolon is a very common thing in the real time. So what we should do to avoid such kind of unnecessary, session crashes or errors and all. That's why in the real time, I never create a macro variable like this openly, because of how much professional I were, how much experience I got. Sometimes I tend to forget the semicolon. If I forgot to write a semicolon, if I execute this statement, then I'm going to have an open code, recursion detected. And as I said, if you get that once, that will not be get resolved. Understand this one? Then what we should do now to avoid such unnecessary crashes? What I'm going to, as a safer side, I will create a macro variable within a macro. Now, how to create a macro variable within a macro? So, to create a macro variable within a macro, now I'm going to start my program with a percentage macro. And I told you, if you start your percentage macro, how we should end our program? We should end our program with a percentage amend. And again, after the percentage macro, what we should do? We should add the macro name. I want to have macro name as a mac1. Here, I do not want to have any parameters. Simply, I will get a macro name. Now, in between these two statements, now I will create the macro variables. If you create a macro variable in this way, even if you have an error, if you get an error in the log window, by rectifying that error, you can re-execute your code. The program will execute normally. Understand? First of all, since we have a session, what you call got corrupted, first of all, I'm going to close the session and then I'm going to reopen the session again. Now, how to create a macro within a macro variable within a macro? So percentage macro, then the macro name. We should end with a percentage amend, and again what we should do? Better write mac1 one more time. Now, in between these two statements, now I'm going to write a macro. Say, for example, I want to create a macro variable called TD. In the TD, I want to have a today's date value. Now, tell me how to create a macro variable. Percentage let. I want to have macro variable called TD is equal to. Tell me if you want to get the today's date. Your system date as a today's date. What is the base SAS function that we have? What is the base SAS function that we have?
Way of
Date of or today of. Okay. Now I am writing, as you said, I am writing it today. Do we require any arguments for today function?
No, sir.
No, I'm going to keep an empty quotations. This is how we can create a macro variable. When you do not have any parameters, only writing a mac1 will not be get resolved your macro variable. Macro variable names. You should do one more time percentage mac1. Now, if I execute this program, now this macro is ready for usage. Now, tell me what the macro variable I created.
TD.
I want to check the value. How to check the value? Percentage put ampersand TD. Now I'm writing that one. Now I'm executing this one statement. If I execute the program, if I go to the log window, now this is the warning I'm getting. Can you say what is the warning I'm having? Apparent symbolic reference of TD not resolved. What does it mean? That means that it is saying you do not have a TD variable. But we created a TD variable, no? But now see, I am taking the same statement now. I'm getting the same statement within the macro. Can you see percentage put ampersand TD? Now, if I select the program and execute the program, now if I go to that log window, can you see within the log window, it is showing the value as in a today parenthesis. But when I have the same statement, percentage put ampersand TD, in outside, it is giving a warning, apparent symbolic reference of TD not resolved. Why I'm getting when you're writing the outside as a warning? You only tell me what is the logic involved behind in this. Okay. I created this TD macro variable within a macro. Macro locally creates it. So it is getting resolved within the macro, but if I have the same percentage put statement outside the macro, I am not getting the value. Can you see? When I write that in the outside, I'm getting a 1. But now see, I'm executing this program now. If I execute the program, I will get the value as it today of. So that means, since I created this macro variable, I can use only within the macro. But I want to be in the safer side, so I created a macro within a macro. But where I want to use? I want to use outside also. So then what should I do? I should make this macro variable available for outside of the macro also. How we can make this macro variable available outside the macro? Now in that scenario, what we need to do, whatever the macro variable that we created within a macro, now you need to globalize this macro variable. You know what you mean by globalizing? That means you need to make it available anywhere. Then how we can globalize that one? If you want to globalize a macro variable, now outside the macro, I am going to write a statement called percentage global, and I should write the macro variable name. What is the macro variable I created, by the way?
TD.
Ampersand.
Here you no need to write an ampersand, simply should write the macro variable name, TD. Now, if I execute this program, now this macro variable will become globalized. Now we can also use outside. Now, if I execute the program, now the macro variable will be get resolved. You will not get any warning. Now, this is the value I'm getting. Now, can you say what is the value I'm getting now? What is the value of TD?
Today of.
Today. Not, but this is what I want to have. What I want to have? I want to have it 21st October 2022. Okay, but what I'm getting ampersand TD value? Today of. That means this macro, this whatever the basis function I have written, this is not getting resolved. Then how to resolve this today of function? Remember, one important point. If you are using a basis function in a macro. Now, how to resolve a basis function in a macro? If you want to resolve this basis function in a macro, this basis function should be enclosed in a macro function called percentage sysfunc of. Understand this one? Where we need to keep this base as variable? We need to keep the base as variable in a macro function called percentage sys func of. Now, see, I'm writing on this today function. I am going to write a percentage sys func and keep that whatever the base as function that we have, we should keep that within the parenthesis. Now, this base as function will be get resolved as in today's state value. Now, see, after writing the percentage sys func of, now I'm executing, now we do not require this percentage put within the macro. Now, if I execute all these programs, now if I go to that log window, now can you see what we have now? Now it has been resolved. But how we are getting the value?
Elapsed number of days.
We are getting elapsed number of days. You know why? Because we haven't used any format. That's why it is showing that, backend data, backend data as a elapsed number of days. But if you want to say as a date, what we should do? We should apply a format. Then how to apply the format? Today off, and after that keep a comma. Whatever the format you want to have, you should write that one. Now select this entire program and execute the program. Now it is going to get resolved. Now if I have the percentage put ampersand AD in the log window, now it will print 21st October 2022. Understand this concept, everybody? Do you want to explain one more time? Very, very important.
One more
I'll
time.
explain one more
Yes,
time.
sir.
So, now, if I create a macro variable openly, there's a chance of having a syntax error. If you have a syntax error, then we cannot rectify that one until unless you close the session. So I do not want to crash. I do not want to disturb my current session. So as the Safer said, what I will do, I will try to create a macro variable within a macro. How to create a macro variable within a macro? First, you should write a percentage macro, and then you should write a macro name. Whatever the macro name you want, you can write it. And here we do not require any parameters, so keep a semicolon. End percentage mend, and again you should write the macro. This is already we know that one. The only thing that we are doing is we are not giving macro parameters. Now, to avoid any unnecessary system crashes, now I will create a macro variable within this one. Now, I want to create a macro variable called a TD. In the TD variable, I want to have a today's value. But if you want to get the today's date value in anywhere, what is the base as function that we have? We have a base as function called today. I want to use that one. Now, how to create a macro variable? You should always create a macro variable by using only percentage let. Now, I'm writing percentage let. Macro variable name TD is equal to, I am going to write today off. Because this the today off is the base as function that will give us a system date as a SAS date value. Now keep a semicolon. But I'm telling you, since I'm creating this macro variable, we cannot this macro variable outside the macro. And first of all, we'll tell the story later. But I'm telling you, if you want to use any base as function in macro, how to resolve the base as function in macro? You should enclose this base as function in percentage sys func of. Now I am going to write percentage sys func of. Now we should write this today of now within the parenthesis. And if I write like this one, this today off will be get resolved, but it will resolve only as a elapsed number of days, because in the backend we are going to have date value as elapsed number of days. But if you want to see that as an a date, what I should do, we should write a format. Whatever the format you want to, you can write it. Now I want to have a date 9. I am writing the date 9 format. Now I want to check whether this macro variable has been created. First of all, I want to resolve this macro. Now I'm writing mac1 one more time, because since we do not have a parameter, you should write a separate macro name. If you execute the program, mac1 will be get created and will be get invoked. Now I want to check whether the TD has been created or not. So to check that one, I am writing percentage let macro variable name percentage put macro variable name ampersand TD. Now, by the way, where I'm writing this percentage put? Within a macro. Remember. Now, if I execute the program in the log window, so can you say what is the value I'm having? 21st October 2020. That means it created a macro variable called TD, and the value of the TD is 21st October 2022. Now I am writing the same macro variable outside the macro. Now if I execute the program, now if I go to that log window, now can you see within the when you write a percentage put within the macro, I'm getting a value as a 21st October 2022. When I'm writing the same percentage put ampersand TD, can you see how I'm getting? I'm getting a warning saying that apparent symbolic reference of TD not resolved. Ante, when I write the same percentage put inside the macro, I'm getting the value. But when I write the same percentage put outside the macro, I am not getting the value. Because we created this macro value within a macro, but I'm trying to resolve that on outside the macro. That means outside the macro, this macro variable is not available. How to make this macro variable available outside the macro also? How to make it available? Now we should globalize this macro variable. Now how to globalize a macro variable? We should write a statement called percentage global, and the macro variable name. What is the macro variable name? TD semicolon. So select this program. If I execute this program, now the macro variable is going to get globalized. Now you can use outside the macro also. Now see, if I execute this statement, now I am going to have the value. Can you see this one? Now we have inside the macro and outside the macro also. This is how we are going to create a macro variable within a macro. Then we are going to globalize it by using a percentage global statement. So percentage global statement will not create, it globalizes just a macro variable, but it will not create any macro variable. If you want to create a macro variable, we can create only by using a percentage net. But why we use the percentage global now? To globalize the given macro variable. It cannot assign any value, but it will globalize the given macro variable. Understand this one, everybody? Anybody has got any confusion? Can I continue?
Sir,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
we did any mistake within this macro?
Not a problem. That's what I'm telling. Now I'm writing, say for example, I want to create a macro variable called programmer. I want to have a name Srinivas. Then what should I do? I'm writing percentage let macro variable name, programmer, PRGMER is equal to, I'm writing Srinivas. But unfortunately, I forgot to write any semicolon. Okay, now I want to find whether the PRGMER has been created or not. Now I'm writing, say for example, I will remove this statement. We don't require this statement anymore. I'm writing percentage put ampersand PRGMER. Now first of all, I'm creating this macro within a macro. No, what we need to do? We need to globalize it. How to globalize it? We should write the same macro variable name. Where we should write this one? We should write it within the percentage global. Now execute this program. Now if you go to that log window, now can you see we have an error? What is the error that we have? We forgot to write a semicolon. Now I am writing the semicolon. Now I am rectifying the error. My error. Now I'm executing the programmer. Now the program will be get resolved now. Now you will not have any error. Now I want to check, by the way, the macro variable name. So did we globalize it that one? Percentage letter. PRGMER only, no? Now I'm executing the program. Now go to that log window. Why am not? 1 second. Not for that reason. Sometimes some other reasons also it is going to be better. Okay, if I execute the program, now can you say it in the log window? Now I have a value called Srinivas. Understand this one?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, I want to create a macro variable called YD. I want to have yesterday's date. How to create a macro variable and how we can have an yesterday's date? How to get a yesterday's date?
By using INT names.
Very good. Now, percentage let yesterday's date YD is equal to, I want to have a variable called YD, yesterday is equal to. Now, if you want to get yesterday's or tomorrow's or day before yesterday, how to get incremented and decremented dates in base SAS? By using a function called INTNX. Isn't it? Now, I want to create yesterday's date. Tell me how you're going to get the program. Now, I am writing, percentage YD is equal to INTNX of what is the syntax that we write for INTNX? Anybody? I want to have yesterday's date. Then what is the interval I want to have? Okay. Because I want to decrement in number of days. Comma. Which date I want to decrement, by the way?
Today's date.
Where we have a today's date? In a macro variable called TD.
TD.
Now, how to write a macro variable?
Ampersand.
Ampersand TD. Now, comma, how many days I want to decrement?
1 day.
Minus
1 day.
1 day.
Now, what should I do now if you want to see whether the macro variable YD has been created or not? This macro variable I created only within a macro. Now, what we should do?
globalize them.
We should globalize it. We should globalize it. Now, I want to globalize this one. How to globalize it? Well, you need to write the same variable in the percentage global. Now, if I select the program, execute the program, now if you go to the log window, I'm expecting 20th of October, but I'm not getting it all. You know the reason. I told you, if you want to use any base class function in a macro, how we should use?
Enclose is fine.
We should enclose that entire thing within the parenthesis, and we should write percentage
Sysfunc.
But still, I'm getting a percentage sysfunc offer. But unfortunately, I am not getting that one. I'm getting so many errors. So you know the reason. Now, can you please tell me one thing? Generally in the base SAS, when writing an interval, we always set the interval within the quotations. In the macro, you no need to write the quotations because anyway, it is a character data. And the second one, now tell me how this ampersand TD will be get resolved? Any idea? No, we already use it in format, no, here. This will be get resolved as a 21st October 2022. But now, what is this data? Is it a character data or a numerical data?
Numerical.
No. In SAS, we have only character data because we have all for numerical values. If you want to make this as a numerical data, what we should do?
Use input function.
Input function.
No. We have some other way.
Inverted quotation.
Very good. We should keep this within the inverted quotations and then followed by
D.
D. Now, this is informator. This D informator will convert this into elapsed number of days. Understand this one? Now, we don't require 21 October 22. No, instead of 21 October 2022, what we can write now here? What are the macro values that we have?
TD.
Ampersand TD. So, you should write ampersand TD within the quotations and then followed by T. Now, this will convert into numerical and then it is going to be -1. What is this -1? -1 day. Now I'm selecting the program, executing the program. Now if I go to the log window, now can you see what we can see now? It has been resolved as resolved, but how we have here? You know why? Because we do not have a format. Now I'm trying to use a format, comma, I'm writing date 9 dot. Now if I execute the program, I am going to have yesterday's date. So you see, 20th of October 2022. Guys are feeling difficult, macros? Is it difficult? To be able to understand the logic? You should do a lot of practice. Now, you only tell me, I want to have day before yesterday's date in one macro variable. So to write it, day before yesterday, percentage let macro variable name dbyd is equal to, tell me how do you want to be written. First of all, write the base as function, then we can apply percentage system count. Tell me how we can write it. IN SAS of, open the parenthesis. What is my interval I want to have? Day, comma. What I want to use
YD.
within the quotations, ampersand TD, and then followed by D, comma. How many times I want to increment?
-2.
And you should write this one within
In the quotations
percentage
functions.
of, open the parenthesis, and keep everything within the parenthesis. But before the closing it, you should use
Date 9
and with a semicolon. But now we are creating a macro variable, but I want to check the value. First of all, if you want to use outside, first what we should do? We should globalize it. How to globalize it? Write the same variable in percentage global, which is db by
PBYD.
If I want to check all the three variables, if you want to check all the three variables, I'm writing ampersand TD, ampersand YD, ampersand DB YD. Now, if I execute all the three, now I'm going to have in the log window, can you see? We have today's date, yesterday's date, and day before yesterday's date. Clear, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to have last month same day, which is I want to have 21st September 2022. What should I do? 21st September 2022.
Month day.
Tell me the function. Percentage let last month same day LMSD is equal to
Percentage.
INTNX of INTNX of
Month.
Month, comma.
month. You don't require quotations. Month, comma.
Ampersand
TD. Very good.
TD.
TD. You should write, T,
Comma.
comma, -1, comma.
Yes.
Good. We should, in the base as we write always S within the quotations, right? Here you should not write the quotations. Now close the parenthesis. Then what we should do? We need to enclose this one in percentage system of, and then keep a comma, 8 9 dot close it. Then what we should do? We need to globalize it. How to globalize it? Write the variable in here. And if you want to check it, ampersand last month same day. Now we execute all the programs together. Now go to that log window. Now can you see? We have 21st September 2022. Clear, everybody? Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is how we create a macro variable, and this is how we globalize that macro variable. Okay? Clear, Andy?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then. See you, and we'll continue. And by the way, you guys are coming tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
You want to have class tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay, then. We'll have a class tomorrow at 7 o'clock, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Please attend. Everybody, please attend. Important, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then. See you tomorrow.